What it is, what it was, what it shall be, what it won't be, what it can't be, what it never will be. What? This is the Yay or Nay show with Alex C. This is the sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. Now, today I'm kind of doing a simulcast, so I'm on Twitchy and now I am on Instagram. I will give you the address to the Instagram if you want to do that instead of Twitchy. The Instagram address is yay or underscore Nay Podcast. Yay or underscore Nay Podcast is the official address to the official Instagram page for the podcast. Now, I told you yesterday we're going to talk about KD. We're going to talk about KD. I told you I had a lot to say because there was, some stuff regurgitating in my mouth because of some of the stuff some of the national people were saying yesterday about Kevin Durant. So we're definitely going to have that conversation. But something happened today. Every time I think I am done talking about Chris Paul, something new comes up. Even when the Suns are not playing, something new comes up with Chris Paul. Okay, so Chris Paul, as you know, COVID. So he has it. Okay, so I know, you heard a lot of conflicting reports from a lot of different people in regards to what was going on. The latest that I heard is he actually has it. So he's not only entered in the COVID-19 protocol, but he actually has COVID-19. Now, he has been vaccinated. However, I've heard two different reports in regards to what that means in regards to the playing time for Chris Paul. This is not my intention to discuss Chris Paul and his playing time or nothing like that, but I just want to go over this really quickly just so people know the latest in regards to what's going on with Chris Paul. So apparently, from some people, they say that he still will have to go 2 weeks in the protocol, which means he could miss a lot of games. Or potentially, so it's said, and it has something to do with the way they treated LeBron James, but LeBron James never tested positive. That's the huge difference. But of course, you're going to have the local yokel crybaby media try and say that LeBron James got special treatment because he didn't have to stay in the COVID-19 protocol that long. And of course, they're going to be the big local yokel crybabies that they are because, it's never fair, wham, 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 when it happens to their boy, Chris Paul, and he's going to get treated differently. Oh, wham, wham, wham. But again, that's the crybaby local yokel media. And we're going to talk a little bit about the local yokel media here in a few minutes as well. But with that being said, Chris Paul is entered into the protocol. It's not known how long he's going to be in the protocol. Again, huge difference between him and LeBron James because Chris Paul tested positive. LeBron James not testing positive. Very, very huge difference when you're talking about Chris Paul, LeBron James, how they're going to be treated in the COVID-19 protocol. However, that's not the reason why we're bringing up Chris Paul today. The reason why we're bringing up Chris Paul today is because you have all these people that are saying, oh, I hope it goes 7 games. And let's stick mainly with the local yokel media, right? The local yokel media is screaming, oh, I don't care who wins when it comes to the Utah Jazz and the Clippers. Oh, it doesn't matter to me because I just hope it goes 7 games because that means Chris Paul will have more of a chance to come back. And, oh, how bad it is. And then here's the big one that got me. I wasn't even going to talk about this right now, but since I kind of walked into it, I guess I'll continue. So one of the guys that I was listening to a little while ago says, oh, because it's going to hurt the Suns because they're the NBA Finals favorite. What? Who the heck has said that the Suns are the NBA Finals favorite to win it all? I mean, again, these local yokel guys, they should put a disclaimer out there. I'm really just a Suns fan, or I'm really just a guy here to act like a Suns fan and tell you Suns fans what you Suns fan want to hear. I'm not here to be realistic. I'm not here to give you facts. I'm just here to tell you Suns fans what I think you want to hear because I don't know how to do anything else. Now, it's amazing to me, absolutely amazing to me, the way that these guys talk about sports, or the way that these guys have the lack of ability to talk about sports, basic fundamentals, basic facts. They have the inability to be able to do either one and to do either one well. And one of them actually works for one of the papers here as a sports reporter, and he also works as a sports reporter on the radio, and yet he fails miserably when he says something as blasphemy as the Suns are the odds-on favorite in the NBA final. No, I haven't heard a single person. Vegas does not have the Suns as an odds-on favorite. Nobody in the national media has the Suns as an odds-on favorite. Where do you get your bad information? Talk about fake news. We've all heard the term for a long time, fake news. When you listen to the local yokels here in the Valley of the Sun, that's what you get when it comes to sports. Fake news. Anything to make it seem like they're on the side of the fans, because again, they either have the inability or they're actually instructed to be unfactual, untrue, and tell you fans what they think you want to hear, because they either, again, don't have the authority to tell the truth or to tell what an actual opinion of theirs might be, or I don't know. It's amazing to me how these guys say all these crazy things that are nowhere near being true in any way, shape, or form. The fact checking doesn't take long to do. It does not take long to do. Nobody has the Suns as the odds-on favorite to win the NBA Finals, with or without Chris Paul. And again, here's the other thing, and I said this yesterday. The Suns will go as far as Devin Booker will take them. The Suns would have enjoyed the same success this year with or without Chris Paul. 8-0 in the bubble without Chris Paul. They were the team everybody wanted to see make the playoffs last year because they were curious to see how the Suns would do, because they were gelling so well. They were so well coached. And then that's another thing about these local yokel guys, screaming and whining that Monty didn't win the Coach of the Year. Yes, he did a great job. Absolutely, he did a great job. But he didn't win Coach of the Year. So what? You had a bigger market. You had a better story in New York, who's been a faltering team for how many years. You have a coach who came in, did an outstanding job, led the New York Knicks to the playoffs. Yes, the Suns, similar story. The Knicks, a much bigger story, a better story, and a little bit of a longer drought, I believe, for the Knicks versus the Suns. So when you also look at the fact that, again, two organizations, both with historically bad ownership, I understand that. But when you look at it, the bigger market's going to get the bigger play. So you shouldn't be surprised that New York gets the Coach of the Year award versus the Suns getting the Coach of the Year award. Shouldn't really be a surprise. And again, both were good. Both were great candidates. Only one can win. Monty didn't win. Wah, 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 wah. Go cry to your mother. This is absolutely ridiculous to listen to you sports guys cry. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, Monty was a finalist. Be happy, be proud. Move on and quit whining about it like a big baby. All right. Now, going back to Chris Paul. Okay. These guys continue to try and say that Chris Paul, greatest or one of the greatest point guards of all time. I already dispelled that myth yesterday. I already demolished that myth yesterday. So that myth out the door. Suns, NBA Finals leaders, according to what these guys are saying, everybody has them as the NBA champs, favored with Chris Paul as the point guard. Now not going to be favored with Chris Paul not as the point guard. Again, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know who you're listening to. I don't know who you're talking to. But nobody that I know of has these Suns favored to win the NBA Finals. They would never, ever, ever get past who I've already crowned as the NBA champs in the Brooklyn Nets, which we're going to get into that next. Amazingly, isn't it amazing? The team that I am crowning as the NBA champs happens to be the team that actually is favored to win the NBA Finals, not the Phoenix Suns. Again, don't know where these local yokels get their bad information from, or maybe fake news is their thing. I'm not sure, but it's an absolute embarrassment sometimes to listen to these guys talk. It is really absolutely 100% no other way to word it than an embarrassment. Absolute embarrassment. Now, moving on. Okay, so KD, everybody on the national side was saying that the game last night, everybody was going to be watching, everybody was going to be paying attention, and it was going to be a very big game for Kevin Durant. However, everybody kind of universally, and again, it goes back to, I wonder if the networks tell these guys what their, byline's got to be, how they got to say it, what they got to say. It's because everybody universally was saying the game last night would not affect Kevin Durant's legacy. Now, remember, Kevin Durant, on the legacy tip, he has some issues, right? He left to make the super team with the Warriors. And the Warriors had already won a title without Kevin Durant. The Warriors did not need Kevin Durant to win another title. They didn't need him. He was basically like a luxury. That's what he was. But he went over there anyways, knowing that everybody pretty much general consensus-wise was kind of saying the same thing, that if Kevin Durant went to play for the Warriors, it might not be the best thing for him legacy-wise. He's going to a team that didn't need him to win a title. They had already won a title without him. He wasn't going there to put him over the top, but he went. He won a title. Great. Congratulations. What else can you do? KD has some issues. We all know about that. I don't want to reiterate all that. He moves on. Now he's in Brooklyn. Okay, great. So KD is now in Brooklyn. So in Brooklyn, he teams up with two more guys, forms another super team. You got a lot of people that got a lot to say about that, including Charles Barkley. A lot of people saying it wasn't a good move. It's not a good move. These super teams are not a good move. I've taken a couple of polls. Some fans have kind of similarly said the same thing. They don't necessarily respect players that go and create these super teams because that's not what fans want to see, and they believe it's unfair to the rest of the NBA. But again, I've taken these polls. I understand that people have said that. I hear them when they say that. I don't know how truthful that is because, again, these same fans are probably the same fans that have been cheering for LeBron James this whole time, and I haven't heard them really complain about him going and forming the team in Miami, forming the team in Cleveland, forming the team in LA. I haven't really heard them complain about what LeBron is doing. So sometimes you wonder if it's just one player doesn't get the same respect as another player, meaning it's okay for LeBron to do it, but if anybody else goes and does it, it's not okay. It almost in a way feels that way to me. But the point of this conversation is Kevin Durant, legacy, last night's game. Everybody said all eyes were going to be on Kevin Durant and what he was doing in last night's game. And I said Kevin Durant, because, again, everybody was all talking up Middleton and Holiday and Milwaukee's back and lockdown defense, and they got the Brooklyn Nets number, and now KD's by himself, and he can't do it by himself, and Milwaukee's going to take the game last night. The series momentum switched to Milwaukee. Milwaukee was going to end up in the NBA Finals. Remember, this is what all the national guys were saying yesterday, on top of whatever happens in this game doesn't matter. It's not going to affect Kevin Durant's legacy. All right. I say not true. Whatever happened last night, this is why yesterday I said it didn't matter what happened last night. It wasn't going to affect what I'm going to say today, and it doesn't. But I did say, let me go back to this really quickly. I did say that the Nets were going to escape with the win last night, that Kevin Durant was going to pop off 45 to 47 points. He was going to have to do that for the Nets to win last night. They would escape with a win last night and have to figure out what they're going to do moving forward in Game 6. Can they keep the momentum going into Milwaukee and play the same kind of ball in Milwaukee that they played in Brooklyn? I did say that's what was going to happen, and that's what was going to happen, right? Remember that. Okay, now, what happened last night? Kevin Durant played 48 minutes, scored 49 points, and the Nets escaped with a win over the Bucks last night. And again, the key word is escaped with a win over the Bucks last night. They didn't destroy them. They didn't demolish them. They didn't do what they did to the Bucks in Games 1 and Game 2. Yes, James Harden played, and a lot of people are trying to make the excuse for the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, well, James Harden was back. Okay. You mean the guy who didn't produce anything? What did he have, 5 points last night? What did he go for, like 0 for 10 from shooting from the field last night? James Harden didn't produce anything last night. He wasn't a big deal last night. He was not a big deal last night. So for the people who are making the excuse for the Milwaukee Bucks, oh, but James Harden was back last night. No, not a big deal. James Harden didn't produce anything last night. Again, 0 from 10 from the field, scored like 5 points. Not a big deal at all. Had like 8 assists, I think it was. So that's good. But with that being said, he didn't do anything big. He wasn't a game changer. He's not the reason why the Nets won the game last night. The reason why the Nets won the game last night is because of what I said. KD was going to have to come out. He was going to have to score big. he was going to have to be a facilitator. He was going to have to get some assists. He was going to have to crash the boards, and he was going to have to control the pace of the game. Guess what KD did last night? Each and everything that I just said. Great. Congratulations to me. I got it right. I like it when that happens. Not bragging, just saying I like it when that happens. But, okay. So, the main point of this conversation, however, is KD's legacy. A lot of these guys, again, keep in mind, we're saying, and I'm giving you all the gist of what happened last night because it's important in regards to where we're going now in the conversation, which is, so they were saying last night's game was not going to affect KD's legacy. My point was and is, yes, it would. Whether he crashed and burned last night or whether he was as successful as he was last night, that game was definitely going to go on KD's legacy / resume. Why? Because he is and has been for a few years now the best player in the NBA. Without a doubt, nobody can really disagree with that. I believe, again, nothing's universal, but most people will agree, fan-wise, analyst-wise, whatever the case may be, most people are going to agree that KD is the best player currently in the NBA and probably has been for the last few years. LeBron deteriorating because of age. Still great, still one of the best. Heck, might even still be top 3, top 2. But nonetheless, he's regressed because of his age. KD, for the last few years, has been the best player in the NBA. There was even an argument being made when KD was with the Warriors. He already was the best player in the NBA. So, with that being said, KD being the best player, what do you have to do as the best player when your teammates are down? Well, what did LeBron have to do to make himself be called Superman, to make himself be the greatest of all? Well, he's not the greatest of all time, but to make himself be considered in the conversation of the greatest of all time and to be the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, and the greatest of current times. What did LeBron have to do? It was something that obviously is going to be intertwined with LeBron's legacy forever. And KD had to do the same thing last night. And if he wouldn't have done it, it would have affected his legacy. And I'm going to get into more detail about that in a second. But what did KD have to do in order to be able to be considered to be the greatest player currently and to get himself in the top 10, top 5 discussion of all time? He had to put the Nets on his back last night, and he was going to have to carry him. And that's what he did. Now, he did it. He did it well. He did it LeBron-esque. He did exactly what a superstar should do in the NBA. We all understand that, right? Makes perfect sense. Kevin Durant did exactly what a superstar should be asked to do and what a superstar should, in fact, do when you have your back against the wall and your other star performers are down. Kevin Durant did exactly what he was supposed to do last night. 100%. Kudos to Kevin Durant and congratulations on the win. I still have the Nets being the champs. But these guys who yesterday were screaming, oh, well, it's not going to affect his legacy no matter what happens last night. You know, he's going to be Kevin Durant no matter what. But then today, this morning, when I'm listening to all these guys who were the ones that were saying, oh, it doesn't matter what happens, it's not going to affect his legacy, then what do? Well, they did what they always do. They walk it back just a little bit. And when they were walking it back just a little bit, what were they talking about? Oh, well, this is great for his legacy. And the only thing last night's game could have done was improve his legacy. Well, okay, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it to where if you do good, it improves your legacy. But if you do bad, it doesn't improve your legacy, because here's where I'm going. Kevin did great, so they're all screaming, oh, this game could only have helped his legacy. Had he did horrible last night, they would have said, well, I don't know. This might hurt his brand. This might hurt his legacy. You know that they would have been saying that this morning. But these guys, not all of them, again, not all. I'm just talking about certain few that I listen to that kind of drive me nuts. But not all. Let me be perfectly clear on that. And matter of fact, I listen to some shows that are absolutely fantastic. I just definitely want to make that sure I get that clear. I listen to some shows that are absolutely fantastic. But there are some shows that got some guys who I don't even know how they got their jobs. But bottom line is, So you know that these guys would have been walking it back and they would have been saying, oh, he played horrible last night. This is going to be horrible for his legacy. Oh, it's not going to, oh. And it's amazing the way that these guys are. I don't know. It's amazing. I don't even understand what the thought process is. So you could play a great game and it'll help your legacy, but if you would have had a horrible game, it wouldn't have hurt your legacy. Yeah, that's what you would have been saying this morning. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, yes, no matter what happened in yesterday's game, it was going to affect and is going to affect Kevin Durant's legacy, irregardless of whether last night would have been negative or positive. And, of course, obviously, it was positive. Because, again, I'll give you another perfect example. If it doesn't affect KD in regards to the game last night, then why is it that they're all worried about Chris Paul and what's going to happen to him and how his legacy is going to be hurt? Because his legacy is already hurt because of all the alleged bad luck that Chris Paul has had, a broken hand and so on and so forth. And, you know, they even gave him a pass when, you know, the supposed one of the best point guards in the NBA of all time played for the Pelicans, but had the worst defeat in playoff history. It's like, okay, wait a minute. How can you be one of the best point guards of all time, get one of the worst defeats in playoff history, but yet you're still considered to be one of the best point guards of all time? See, these guys, they're very fair weather. They talk about fair weather fans a lot. There's more fair weather sports reporters than there are fair weather fans. Let me be perfectly clear about that. There are more fair weather sports reporters than there are fair weather fans. These guys go wherever the wind blows. Not all of them. I'll never say all. There are a lot of great ones, but I watch some that make no sense at all. They just kind of go wherever the wind blows. It's amazing to me. But these local yokels like to give Chris Paul a pass on almost everything, basically, and it absolutely drives me nuts. I don't understand it, and it just drives me nuts. And then here's another thing about the local guys. The local guys, you know, if you're going to be a sports fan, and let's play devil's advocate. Let's say that they do put it out there, they're a sports fan, and they're just being a sports fan, and they're talking like a sports fan, which is what I do. That's my claim to fame. That's what I do. So, but I'm more realistic, and I'll give you the yays and the nays, the good and the bad on both, because I like being realistic. I don't want to be here to be that guy like some of these national guys to try and tell you that this is the way it is and it's the way that we say it. We sports people know what we're talking about. You fans, you Twitter people know absolutely nothing, because there's a sports guy who's a national guy who talks just like that, but yet he changes his opinion every 5 seconds as well, just like he did about Kawhi Leonard today. But we might get into that in a minute if I have time, but I'll keep that in the back of my mind. However, with that being said, you know, these local guys are like rooting and cheering for all these players to be injured and have their star. Oh, look at the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard. Look at the opportunity the Suns have with Kawhi Leonard down. Look at the opportunity the Suns have if they go up against Utah with their stars down. And it's like, wow. So you guys just want to win, and you don't care if you actually play the best team with all their star players. But, and here's the funny part, but you local yokel crybabies will cry because Chris Paul might miss the game or a couple of games, depending on what happens with this COVID-19 protocol. You local yokel crybabies will whine and cry like a bunch of little crybabies because Chris Paul might miss some games, but you're not worried. You're jumping up and down because Kawhi Leonard's out for the Clippers, and you got other players out for the Jazz, and then you've got these guys out for Brooklyn, and then you make blasphemy, untrue statements like the Suns are the odds-on favorite to win the NBA Finals when they're not, but you're all excited because you're seeing all these injuries with Brooklyn, with the Clippers, with the Jazz. So how great it looks for the Suns because of all these injuries, and yet you crybabies are whining because Chris Paul might miss a few games because of COVID-19 protocol. And here's the funnier part. You got these other teams that are battling, struggling, fighting, doing what it takes to get to the Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, and then, of course, inevitably to the NBA Finals. And they're doing it shorthanded. And you local yokel crybabies are whining and crying because you might be missing one of your players in Chris Paul? How does that make sense? How does that even come close to making any kind of sense? It doesn't make sense at all. It makes zero sense. And here's the funnier part. I've been teetering back and forth all morning long on how I was going to word this part. I literally make no joke about it. I have been teetering all day long in regards to how am I going to word this particular statement, because this is going to be the ultimate closing statement when it comes to the Suns and Chris Paul. First and foremost, let me put out this first part of the statement. I'm a Suns fan. I'm cheering for the Suns. And I know that I, along with most fans, again, let me say that one more time. And I know I, along with most fans, want to see the Suns playing the top level of competition at their top peak with all their top peak players. That's how most fans want to see it. So you local yokel guys who are screaming and hollering and, oh, yeah, let's get the next injured team, and then we can brag and tell everybody how we destroyed the LA Lakers, even though we played a depleted team and all their stars were injured and they were all, basically on a shorter length of layover or a layoff because they had to play all last season to win the NBA title. And so that means their layoff was a lot less than everybody else's. But yeah, you want to brag about how you beat the Lakers as if you really beat the Lakers at full strength, and you didn't. You want to brag about how you beat the Nuggets and you beat the Nuggets at full strength when you didn't. And now you're hoping that streak continues and you're going to get an injury-depleted Utah Jazz or an LA Clippers, but you don't care which one you get right now because you want it to go to a Game 7 so it stretches out so that you're not missing your guy in Chris Paul. But you want all the other teams to be short-staffed, but you're whining and crying like a bunch of babies because you don't want to be missing your guy in Chris Paul. Again, makes zero sense. But I've been teetering, like I said, all morning long. How am I going to do this? How am I going to word this? What exactly should I say? With me being a Suns fan, again, I'm rooting for the Suns. Do I think the Suns have a shot at winning the NBA title? I've been saying since the playoffs started, no. The champs are the Brooklyn Nets. I believe that. I still believe that. Kyrie Irving will be back. He's not going to be out for the rest of the remainder of the playoffs. He'll be back. James Harden's already back, even though he's limited in what he has the ability to do, and even though he's going to make very little difference, and he made very little difference last night, there's no doubt in my mind that Brooklyn is going to win the NBA title. Unless, and I said this when I made the prediction to begin with, unless something happens and they just completely get depleted of all their stars through injury, then the Brooklyn Nets are the NBA champs. Everybody else is playing for second place. But I'm still cheering for the Phoenix Suns. But here's the thing. So I'm cheering for the Suns, and I decided, so how do I want to see this play out? You got all these other teams. They've got all these injuries, all these problems. You got these guys that are just dying and, oh, we need Chris Paul. And then they're screaming, oh, and without Chris Paul, the Suns won't no longer be the odds-on favorite in the NBA Finals. They were never the odds-on favorite in the NBA Finals to begin with. Never, ever, ever were the Suns the odds-on favorite in the NBA Finals. But here's the thing. I want Chris Paul to come back. I do. I want him to come back. I don't know if he can because, again, I don't know what's going to happen with the COVID-19 protocol. Is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be 1 week? Is he going to be able to come back in Game 2? Is he going to miss no games at all and start at Game 1? I hope he starts at Game 1. I hope Chris Paul comes back because then when the Suns get beat, I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to say then. Because if Chris Paul is the answer, if he is the one and only, if he is the true god of basketball that you local yokels keep screaming, and then the Suns get knocked out of the playoffs, and they're going to, and the Suns get knocked out of the playoffs, then what are you local yokels going to say? And I already know. I can tell you right now, I'm going on record as what you local yokels are going to say. You're going to say, oh, well, we didn't know that COVID-19, we didn't know how deeply it affected Chris Paul. It made it to where, it affected him more because, you guys know how long it affected some other players. Some other players, indicated that it affected them for up to 6 months. And we didn't know that Chris Paul was that deeply. I already know the excuses are there. I already know what excuses you're going to make for when the Suns fail. And the Suns are going to fail no matter what. But I hope they're at full strength. I hope Chris Paul comes back. It ain't going to matter because it looks like if it stands the way it is now. They're going to play the Utah Jazz because Kawhi Leonard is out. Paul George is not going to be able to put the Clippers on his back, so I'm going to lose my prediction. The Alex C, I was right. Alex C, I was wrong in regards to the Clippers moving on to the NBA Finals. I'm going to lose that one. But again, I'll take the loss because unlike other national guys, I understand that durability should be taken into account when you're picking who your teams are. And I'm going to get into what I mean with that comment here in a minute. But here's the deal. I hope Chris Paul comes back when the Suns fail. I know these local guys are going to sit there and scream and say, oh, COVID affected them worse than we thought. We didn't know it was that bad. Oh, woe was us. Woe was us. I know that's what they're going to say. Mark my words. I know that's what they're going to say. But the funny thing is, really quickly, on a totally different topic, moving to Kawhi Leonard, a national guy yesterday was screaming about how the Clippers were the odds-on favorite to win the NBA Finals. And I don't have a problem with that statement being made. That's fine. If that's his opinion, that's a good opinion. Hey, I don't have a problem with that. There's no such thing as a universal opinion in anything we talk about. So I'm okay with that. And that's a pretty good prediction. If I were going to make a prediction that wasn't the Brooklyn Nets, I would have said, yeah, I'll take the Clippers. Why not? I would. But here's the thing. Looks like the Clippers are moving. This is a national guy. Looks like the Clippers are moving in the right direction. Everything's going well. They're on the right path. Everything's going perfectly. The Clippers are definitely on their way, and they're going to get past the Suns, and they're going to move on to the NBA Finals. Okay, great. That was yesterday. Then it comes out today, Kawhi Leonard is injured. And this guy just got done praising Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard, along with Paul George, was the reason why the Clippers were going to move and they were going to get it done. And it was finally going to happen. And congratulations, rah, 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 Kawhi Leonard. Great job. Here come the LA Clippers. And then this same national guy goes on and says, oh, you shouldn't be surprised that Kawhi Leonard's injured. That's been his entire history. Kawhi Leonard's always been injured. Yeah, he's had this and he's had that, and this should be no surprise, and I don't know why anybody's surprised. Well, wait a minute. You're the same guy who yesterday said this guy was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you would take him over anybody now that LeBron's out of his prime. This is the guy who you'd want, even though previously the day before you said Chris Paul was the guy you'd want. Now all of a sudden it moved over to Kawhi Leonard, and now all of a sudden Kawhi Leonard's a bum because he's injured, and everybody should have known his injury was coming because he's always been injured, according to you. The guy who changes with the flavor of the wind. But you're the guy who marks everything black and white. You know everything. You're the guy who knows everybody on Twitter is a dummy and they don't know what you know. And only you sports people who have been doing this for 30 years know everything. Even though you get most things wrong, you still claim to get everything right, which is kind of funny to me. But I listen because it's an entertaining show. I like it. I do like the show. I like the way it's done. You know, he doesn't always get things right, but I don't listen to see how much he gets right or what he doesn't get right. But some things, now that I'm doing my podcast, just make me say I got to talk about it because some of the things he says are so crazy that you got to bring it up because it's weird, some of the ideas or some of the things he says. And again, it's kind of crazy when you talk about, you know, Kawhi Leonard was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now all of a sudden, oh, well, you should have known he was going to get injured. You should have known he was going to do this. You should have known. You should have known. Hey, Kawhi Leonard, last time I checked, he has an NBA ring. Your guy, Chris Paul, has none, and you were talking him up the day before. But if Chris Paul gets injured or he stays out because of COVID, you'll probably flip on him too and say, oh, well, this is just part of the bad luck stigma that Chris Paul gets. You'll come up with something crazy. But it's amazing. It's just none of these guys stick to their guns. Every one of these guys changes with the wind. None of them have an opinion that actually they stick by. I will always stick by mine. I said Brooklyn's going to win. I stick by it. I said the Clippers are going to win. I have to stick by it. Even though now I know it's going to be tougher and it's probably not going to happen, I'm still going to stick by it. I still think they're the better team. And there's always a possibility Paul George can pull it out. But without Kawhi Leonard, admittingly, it's going to be tough. But again, if I lose, it's because I didn't take enough into account the durability of Kawhi Leonard. But then again, I don't think you have to. I disagree with National Guy. Kawhi Leonard's been durable. Kawhi Leonard's the reason why the Toronto Raptors won an NBA title. He was the sole reason why they won. Haven't seen Toronto do that much since without him. They've done okay, but you haven't seen them do that much without him. So I would say he is as good as everybody says. He's as good as advertised. He just ran into one of those years. And this is one of those years anyways. Short off season. You got LeBron James whining, and rightfully so, complaining. I shouldn't say whining, complaining because of the short off season. Look at how many injuries because of the short off season. And I'd have to say there's a lot of merit to what LeBron James is saying. Absolutely, there's a lot of merit to what LeBron James is saying. So I don't disagree with him in any way, shape, or form when it comes to what LeBron James is saying about the short season. And this NBA season and NBA Finals is going to come down to attrition. Who's going to be the healthiest? This isn't necessarily going to be a season where you're going to see the best win. This is going to be a season where you see the most healthy win. And there is a chance that being the healthiest, it'll be still an odds-on low ball chance, but being the most healthy might elevate the Suns to the NBA title. It won't be because they're the best team, but it might be because they're the healthiest. But this seems to be a year where being healthy matters the most. I don't recall a season where I've ever seen NBA playoffs with this many injuries and this many problems going into a season. Never seen it before. But it's still fun. Still fun to watch. It's interesting as heck. So that's pretty much all I want to say on all this today. I'm probably running over on time again, so oops. I'm going to get in trouble for that. But again, I had some stuff that I wanted to talk about in regards to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'll save that tomorrow. I had some stuff that I was going to talk about in regards to Charles Barkley and some recent remarks he made. I'll save that for tomorrow. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Brand new questions up on the @YayOrNay Twitter page, @YayOrNay Podcast. Brand new stories on the Facebook page, same address, @YayOrNay Podcast. And again, don't forget to check out our official Instagram, @YayOr_podcast, @YayOr_podcast. You guys have a great day.